Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the support of our very special sponsors, and we want to take a moment to say thank you to all of them. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Hearth Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to say thank you to our platinum sponsors, including Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. And Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Ken Edwards. Ken is a certified Master Athletic Administrator. He's currently the president-elect for the Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, and he's the athletic director at Jamestown High School in Williamsburg, Virginia. Ken, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Gosh, we're excited to have another AD from Virginia and hear what's going on in that great state. So, as you know, the life of an AD is very busy, so we're going to jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to college, and maybe how your love of sports led to this career in athletic administration.
Well, absolutely. I grew up in Northern Virginia, went to Parkview High School in Loudoun County. My dad was a health and PE teacher, our basketball coach. I ended up playing basketball all 4 years, which was a really good experience playing for my dad. My brother played for my dad also. From Parkview, I went to Longwood College in Farmville, Virginia. I went there with the purpose in mind of becoming a health and PE teacher and coaching basketball. So kind of like our family tradition. And of course, my love of sports has led me to this job. And it's really not a job. It's more of an adventure every day. As you well know, no 2 days are alike. So you really have to love what you do, and you really have to love sports and being around student athletes and coaches.
Well, again, it's always so cool to hear the different stories. Go ahead and share a little bit. What was that like growing up and playing, for your dad? Our three kids had I guess, the pleasure or the agony of playing for their mom and dad. My wife's a career coach. So what was that experience? What was that like growing up?
Oh, it was fabulous. All of our Friday nights revolved around the gym in some way. My sister was a cheerleader. I was playing, my dad was coaching, my little brother was running around, doing things, running around in the hallway, throwing balls around. My mom, of course, never missed a game. So I remember when my brother graduated, he was the last one through. And my mom was so sad because she didn't know what she was going to do on Friday nights from then on. And it had become our thing. So when we started coaching, she would just pick up and come to our games as well. So what a fantastic experience we had. Most of my memories, good memories growing up occurred around sports and occurred, at the high school, hanging out with my dad and doing all those things. And I've kind of carried that over to my kids. My son hangs out with me at school and he plays a variety of sports as well. So it's been a great experience for us.
I can certainly echo that. I really enjoyed coaching our kids. I got to coach my son in football and our daughters in track. And I was their AD at the school I was at when they were in school. So yeah, great memories. Take us through those years of, just getting ready to leave college and getting that first teaching job or first teaching and coaching job. What was that like?
Well, it was actually fun and stressful at the same time. I mean, I had a pretty clear vision of what I wanted to do. And at that time, my whole concept revolved around teaching and coaching. That was it. And I knew I wanted to coach basketball. I knew exactly how I wanted to coach, and it was just a matter of getting a job. And, fortunately, I got a job in Chesapeake, which is in Southern Virginia, coached JV basketball for 5 years and then kind of changed schools to get a varsity job, and then I got a break and got into college coaching, at the Division III level. And then I was fortunate to coach at the Division I level as an assistant for 4 years. So it's kind of shown me both sides, of the line, the high school side where the kids are being recruited, and then the college side where I'm doing the recruiting. And it's really helped me in my job as an athletic director to help prepare our kids, who are being recruited, to kind of guide them through that process. And then my own kids who want to play college athletics, from a parent standpoint, I kind of have a really good understanding of what path to go down. So, I think getting into coaching and teaching was exciting, and it's something I've never looked back. I've never not been involved in sports since as long as I can remember. And that's fantastic.
Gosh, you're making me remember, my days, climbing that coaching ladder and, small school head coach, bigger school head coach. And then I was very fortunate to coach collegiately like you. That's what kind of brought us all over the country, along with my wife. But taking those experiences and then putting them to use, back in high school as a coach and as an AD, great experiences. What brought you to Jamestown in your current position as the athletic director?
Well, I was teaching and coaching in Chesapeake, and I knew that I wanted to make the shift over to athletic administration. And Jamestown was about an hour away, so it was close enough that I knew of the school, but I didn't really know too many people there. And I tell you, when I say this is the break of my career, it really is. I was so fortunate to get this job. It was my first job as an athletic director, and I kind of jumped in with both feet, and like a lot of ADs, you rely on your coaching experience, your organization from that realm to get you through what probably was the first month on the job here. And then all of the things hit me that I didn't know about. You didn't know what you didn't know until it hits you in the face. And so, I've had a lot of great people to help me along, and Jamestown is a fantastic school. In Virginia, we've won 35 state championships in 21 years. We've just got a fantastic group of coaches, some incredible student athletes, and it's just a really fun place to be right now.
That is so cool to hear. You talked about, people helping you along the way. And that's a great transition to our next topic about mentoring. In our profession, we talk about the importance of mentoring and leadership. So who were some of those mentors that you had, either, coaches or parents maybe growing up, or people that you worked with or worked for? Whose voice do you still hear in your head when you're talking to your coaches and your kids?
That's a great question. I think there's three mentors that come to mind. First one was my dad. I learned, how to respect people. I learned how to compete against other coaches on the court. But then when the game was over, you were friends, and you learned how to work together to build a common goal. If you wanted to build a basketball camp or start a basketball tournament with the area schools, he taught me how to work together with other people. And then once I got into athletic administration, the very first person I called was a gentleman named David Rhodes. At the time, he was athletic director at Cox High School in Virginia Beach, and I worked for him actually for 11 years as a coach. He's now the head of athletics for the entire city of Virginia Beach. He was past president of the Virginia ADs Association as well. And so David was the first person I called. And he still gave me the best advice I've ever received as an athletic director. He said, your main job is to be a servant leader. As long as you remember you're there to serve those you work with, you'll always be okay. He said, never lose sight of the fact that everything you do has to be for the best interest of the students. And you'll never get tired of the job. You'll never get burned out, because there's always something exciting, something new to do for the students. And then the last person is a person I actually talk to once a week. His name is Tom Dolan. Tom is the head of compliance for the Virginia High School League. He's over the entire state. He kind of handles the rule book, makes all of the decisions on rules and things like that. Tom is a past AD at Jamestown. He was the very first AD at Jamestown. And then he moved up into the state association. But Tom is a person that really understands the anxieties, the problems, the things I deal with at Jamestown on a daily basis. So I talk to him more about issues that I may be facing that are specific to my school rather than other schools around the state. And he's somebody that always picks up the phone when I call and is so generous with advice. So those three people, I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at without them.
Again, I just love to hear the stories about those people who helped us along the way. It's a great reminder that we didn't get here on our own. You talked about service, and currently, in addition to being the athletic director at your school, you're also serving your state association as the president-elect. Then next year, I assume, like Florida, you'll be the president. I was president-elect last year. This year, I get to be the president. Take our listeners through that journey of first getting involved with your state association, taking some LTI courses and getting your CMAA, and now you're on your state board of directors. Walk our younger listeners through that process and why it's so important to get involved.
Well, I think Virginia, like a lot of states, has a new athletic directors workshop over the summer. So when I first got the job at Jamestown, I got it in April. So I was fortunate to get to know some of the people I was going to be working with. And then in July, I went to the new AD's workshop. And in Virginia, we provide for LTC 5, I think it's 501 and 502, so that you can become an RAA just by going to the workshop. So you spend 2 days there, you take the LTI classes, and then you get your RAA. So that's what I did. And then I came back, and in Virginia, we've got it set up so each region, there are 24 regions in the state. Each region has a representative on the board of directors. So at our first region meeting, I met with our region rep and I let him know, I said, hey, can you help me get involved in a committee or, anything I can do? I said, I'll sweep the floors, whatever you need me to do. I just want to be involved. And so as luck would have it, and it's only luck, it's nothing I did. He actually became president-elect my second year at Jamestown. So as soon as he got that, he had to resign from the region rep position and asked me if I wanted to take it over. Of course, I jumped at it. So then I was on the board of directors for a couple of years, and I decided that, I wanted to get involved on a higher level. So I applied for the president-elect position. I interviewed for it a couple of years ago and was not chosen. Our current president, Joe Brennig, who's athletic director at Jamestown High School in Loudoun County, he was elected president. So last year I interviewed again and was fortunate enough, I may have been the only one that interviewed, but I was fortunate enough that they chose me. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. And I'm very excited to be president-elect. Joe is doing a fantastic job as president. He's leading us through a very difficult time with COVID. We haven't, I was talking to him at our meetings this past weekend, and, I reminded Joe that he will be the only president in the history of Virginia to be president for an entire year and never hold a face-to-face meeting with any ADs. And that's kind of sad when you think about it. But he's been fantastic in leading us through this, and I hope I can continue his strong tradition of being president.
Well, you made me think there. Last year as president-elect, in Florida, your only job is to plan and execute the annual conference, which for us is in May. And as you probably recall, we had to cancel due to COVID, and we ended up offering a series of some Zoom workshops just to kind of have the conference. And now this year, as the president, we had a virtual board meeting in September. But then just a couple of weeks ago, we did have a face-to-face board meeting in January. So I won't have that same stigma hanging over my head. And we're still hopeful to have an in-person conference for us in May. So, you need to tell your president to have that face-to-face. We had social distancing, we had masks, we had it all. Okay. Well, Ken, another thing that we like to do with our podcast is this idea of best practices. And so I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. You've been at a number of schools, you've had a very successful run at Jamestown. What are some things in looking at your program that you can say with equal parts humility and pride? Boy, we really do this well. We do this better than anybody in the state. What are some best practices that you can share with us?
Well, like a lot of ADs, some of the things we do best are born out of necessity. We were going through some adversity. Probably my second year at Jamestown, I went to the national conference in San Antonio. May have been my third year at Jamestown, but we were struggling. When I went down to the national conference, some of our programs were really having issues dealing with referees, and it just wasn't a good look. It wasn't something I was really happy with or proud of. So I went down to the national conference kind of looking for some answers. I was prepared to talk to a number of people. I had done my research on what sessions were going to be. And I happened to be sitting in a session on sportsmanship. And I heard a gentleman talk about a program that they started in Minnesota called Thank a Ref. And, I wrote it down. And it was something I was going to think about and research. Well, in the time I was in San Antonio and on the flight back home, it kind of mushroomed into this really big idea in my head, and I got back and I talked to my principal and I said, this could really be good for us. And as you know, the conference is in December. Well, this was something I wanted to start the first week in January. I wanted to kickstart it with basketball. So we did. We started we call it our Thank a Ref program. We made up a big poster that basically said thank you to the referees. We took it down to the cafeteria and we had all of our winter sports athletes sign it. We chose 2 nights, one for boys basketball and one for girls basketball. And again, these were going to be our pilot program. We didn't really know what we were doing. So we stuck the poster up on the wall, contacted the Referees Association, and they were 100% for it. So we decided not only to thank them, but we also tied in the national referee shortage. You see the tweets out by NFHS all the time, become a referee. Well, we started piggybacking on those and retweeting them the week before we did our Thank a Ref. And, we kind of tied that in. We actually took a screenshot, we printed all that up and laminated it into a couple of signs, and we post them at our ticket booth. We post them in the gym. We make announcements during the game. If you're interested in becoming a referee, look at the south wall. There's some information there. And, like the NFHS, we had the Q code. So all they had to, or the QR code, and all they had to do was, snap a picture with their phone and they got all the information. So we've kind of tied those two things together. And we really spent a lot of time talking to our coaches and athletes before those events. This is why we're doing it. We want to emphasize sportsmanship. You need to be on your best behavior, because we reached out to students, coaches, and then we reached out to the parents. And we said, this is how we would like to see you act in the stands at a game. This is how we want you to treat the referees. And so we really emphasized that. And those became the best 2 nights of our entire basketball season. They were so much fun. The coaches and the kids bought into it. We took pictures of both teams. We invited the other team to participate. So before the game, we got both teams together in front of the scorer's table with the referees. We took a huge picture. We tweeted everything out. We said, we're lucky to have 3 of the best referees in the state here tonight. We'd never say their names, though, but we would just put their picture on there. And it was so well received that we decided to carry it over into spring sports. But instead of just soccer, we did it with every spring sport that we had referees. And from then on, it's been kind of a tradition at Jamestown. We just got the word last week that we can play in Virginia. We can play fall sports beginning, next week. So we're very fortunate that now we can start to plan our Thank a Refs for the fall. We haven't been able to do those for a year. And it's just been something that's been really tremendous. I've written an article about it and published it in our state association magazine. I've talked about it in our meetings, trying.
Oops. I lost you. Lost your sound.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so we've reached out to other schools in our state to try to encourage them to pick up on this program. We've heard from conferences as far away as Wisconsin and Iowa that the conference wants to try this idea. And again, it's nothing we created. We just got the idea from Minnesota, and then we just kind of ran with it. And I will say that that's been the best thing we've done since I've been here. It's something that's a tribute to our coaches and our student athletes and our administration to get that off the ground.
That is just such a fantastic program. And again, deja vu, I had a very similar experience at a national conference in a workshop. We've been wanting to do something with sportsmanship, and it was just a little bit different. We ended up doing and I brought it back over the Christmas holiday, and we rolled it out in January. We ended up doing a pregame sportsmanship announcement. And we had a student we did with basketball initially, student from the visiting team and a student from our team come to the scorers table. I gave them each a microphone, and they took turns going back and forth reading, our state sportsmanship announcement, which included, showing respect for the officials, et cetera, et cetera. And it was just so well received by everybody. We got a lot of, pats on the back, which was great. But it also, I think really helped set a tone prior to the game. It wasn't the cranky old athletic director saying, you better be a good sport. It was the student athletes themselves that were asking everybody to be good sports. So great job with that. Love sportsmanship initiatives. You talked a little bit there about, starting up in Virginia. So let's jump into that. It's been interesting, sometimes inspiring, sometimes discouraging to hear what's been happening across the country with COVID. So to our listeners, we're recording this interview on February 2nd. So Ken, as of right now, what's going on in Virginia as far as return to play athletics and also with return to school in the classroom? What's going on?
Well, with return to play, the Virginia High School League back in, I think it was November, put out their return to participation guideline. Winter sports started on December 7th, and unfortunately, my school system chose not to play winter sports. We decided that right before Thanksgiving, and it was an extremely tough decision. We are the only school district in our conference not to play winter sports. So it's been very, very humbling, very tough for us, to go through that. But fortunately, in Virginia, the fall season was moved from the traditional fall to beginning on February 4th. And we have received permission to play fall sports, and our school system is full speed ahead. We're going to actually start up next week with football, competition cheer, and then all of our other fall sports, which would be field hockey, volleyball, golf, and cross country, will start up on the 15th. So we're really excited about that. And so the third season in Virginia, the spring, has been pushed back a little bit. It will begin on April 12th. So we're basically getting 3 seasons in pretty much the second semester from January to the end of June. But we're just excited to have our student athletes back out there playing, have our coaches working with them again. Now, as far as return to learn, Williamsburg, James City County, our school district has been completely virtual since last March 11th. And we haven't returned to school on the high school level. We haven't had students in our building yet, but we are scheduled to return in a hybrid fashion on February 22nd, which will coincide with our first week of actual athletic contest. So the timing is perfect. We're excited to get our students back in the building and definitely excited to play sports again. So it's been a great thing.
Oh, that is certainly good news, and glad we could be here, kind of on the cusp to hear about it. Just without going into a full-blown plan, what are a few things that you and the coaches have done to prepare for practices and competitions as far as new, let's say, COVID protocols? What are a couple of things that you've done?
Well, right off the bat is the disinfecting or the cleaning of equipment. And as you know, with football, that can be a challenge, because there's so many pieces of equipment. We're not allowed to use our locker rooms, so the students will have to take their equipment home with them, but we're going to have to disinfect it before they take it home. So just the logistics of that have been a little bit of a challenge. Then your indoor sports, wearing a mask is going to be paramount. All of our coaches in or out are going to have to wear masks. Most of our student athletes, when they're competing, will have to wear a mask. And then, just the disinfecting of the various equipment indoors and outdoors. And then the challenge of how to incorporate the weight room. Our weight room is not that big, so we can get one pod of 9 student athletes and a coach, and that's it. So the challenge has become how to rotate everybody equally through the weight room while still giving us a competitive advantage in competing. I mean, there's 2 different sides. There's the side of starting sports and wanting to be safe, and then there's the side of competing and wanting to compete well and wanting to advance in the region and state playoffs. So we've got to balance those 2 and try to find some compromise so that we are staying safe and we are completing our seasons. We're not having to take a pause. So that's what's before us right now. And whenever this podcast ends, that's what I'm going to get back to work on. I've been working on it all week, and it just seems like it's nonstop. But fortunately, we've got a great central office, great coaching staff, and we're all trying to find some common ground on how to do things.
What is your plan as a school, as a district, as far as spectators?
Unfortunately, we're not going to have spectators for the fall, and more than likely we won't have for the spring either. But we are one of the school districts that jumped on that deal by NFHS and Pixelot. So our cameras have been installed. We're learning how to input the schedule, learning how to deal with all that. And we're excited. Our first game that we'll use them will be February 26th. We have a home football game, our first one in a year and a half, and we can't wait to try out the Pixelot and get the kids on the field and get back to playing sports. That's going to be a great day.
We actually did that at my school a year ago, and it was a great addition. So I know you'll enjoy that. Okay.
Good.
Ken, another question we've been asking our athletic directors since we started these interviews back in late June revolves around the idea of social issues or social justice, if you will. And my question is this: what are some things that we can do as athletic administrators better? How can we do a better job with our kids, our coaches, our communities regarding social awareness?
Well, I think for me, the first thing we can do is listen. I think as an athletic director, I've got to be really good at listening to my student athletes. I've got to hear what their concerns are. I've got to try to understand their perspective, their point of view. And, we spent a lot of time talking with Inside Out coaching, last spring and over the summer. One of the things they talked about was having empathy. And that's another thing. As an athletic director, I've got to have empathy. I've got to try to put myself in the shoes of our student athletes, our coaches, our community members, our administrators, and I've got to try to see things through their eyes. And I can never understand completely, but I can understand better. And it will help me make better decisions as an athletic director moving forward to serve all of our student athletes, to serve all of our community. So that's the first thing, is becoming a better listener. The second thing is communicating. And that has to be transparent. And I have to communicate across many different platforms to many different groups. And my message has to be consistent, that we're going to be inclusive. We're going to create equality. We're going to create diversity. We're going to help every group have the same chance to succeed, not just, close our ears to certain groups or open our ears to other groups. We want to be inclusive to everybody.
No, that's, so spot on. Especially, the empathy part. It's got to come from the heart. Let's lighten things up a little bit. I've always asked our athletic directors, what's your favorite part of the job? And after about 70 of these, the answer was always the same. Oh, it's the kids. And of course, it should be the kids. Why else would you do this if you didn't enjoy working with young people? But acknowledging that you love your kids, you care about them. What are some other things that get you excited about coming to Jamestown High School each day?
Without question, it's the way each day is different. There are no 2 days that are the same, especially at Jamestown. And each day brings its own challenges, its own problems. There are certain things that I have to meet head on each day. And then there's the unknown. You know, I come to work every morning. I've got a great to-do list. I feel fantastic. I'm ready to roll. And then, you know, something out of left field hits me the first hour, and I can throw the to-do list out the window, you know, because I'm going to spend the rest of my day working on that. And while it's challenging and sometimes frustrating, it's never the same. And that's been fun. And just the people I've gotten to meet in this job are incredible. You know, like yourself, I've gotten a chance to do these podcasts. I've gotten a chance to meet people at the state and national level that I normally wouldn't meet. And I learned something from everybody I meet. And that just, I mean, I love what I do. I'm so happy being an athletic director. I just, you know, it's always a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I appreciate the shout out. And again, a couple of years ago, I actually tracked for a month, you know, my to-do list, you know, how many days I actually finished. And I have a top five, you know, these top five things that I got to do. There were 3 days in a month where I actually got through my top five on that day because of those things that pop up. Okay.
Yep.
So great stuff. Yeah. No, I don't think any other job has our variety. Okay.
Right, right.
Well, Ken, this has been great spending some time with you and, you know, get to know you a little bit better, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you are certainly an experienced AD, a very successful AD, but right now I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in Ken Edwards' athletic director toolbox?
Well, I think first is leadership. When you talk about leadership, especially with younger ADs, for me, leadership has to be face to face. That's great leadership. And in today's time where you're doing a lot of stuff by Zoom or email or phone calls, you know, don't lose sight of the fact that leadership has to begin with that face to face relationship, that face to face conversation. You know, it's even if you have to walk out to somebody's practice and stand 10 feet away with a mask on, the fact that you're there means so much to that coach and those athletes. You know, when we're in season in a normal year, I probably go to as many away contests as I do home contests because I want our student athletes to know that I care. I want them to know that I'm there for them, even if they're not playing at our home venue. So I think the first thing is leadership has to be face to face, and we can't lose sight of that because it's becoming easier and easier to do things non-face to face, you know, or in different ways. The second thing is communication. Communication is almost has to be an evolving virtue or an evolving trait, because if you ever feel like you've mastered communication, that's probably when you're falling behind, you know, because it's always changing. There are different platforms to communicate on, be it social media, email, phone. But again, the best is face to face. So that brings me to my third one. My third thing that I would tell a young AD is, number one, don't be afraid to have hard conversations. And number two, learn how to have hard conversations. Again, looking back at my schedule just for this week, the number of hard conversations I've had to have about fall sports is it's kind of daunting. So as young ADs, sometimes they're a little intimidated by a coach that's been there for a while, or they don't quite know how to talk to that parent, you know, that's being very angry. You know, so the best advice I could give is learn how to have hard conversations, and then don't run from them. Meet them face to face, meet them head on, and just be honest, be transparent, be a great listener, be a great communicator, and everything will work out fine. So that's all I got. I hope that helps somebody.
No, those are outstanding. Leadership, communication, and don't be afraid, you know, kind of embrace those hard conversations because they're going to bear great fruit. Ken, thank you so much for spending time with us today, and certainly all the best as you get to give back to sports.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. And I'm going to research your idea about the pregame sportsmanship announcement. I really like that. So
I'll be happy to, you'll have to remind me though. You shoot me an email and I will send you the script that we use and also a little video. Local news did a video on our school a few years ago. Okay.
thank you very much. I've enjoyed this.
You've been great. To our listeners, remember that the Zoom videos of these interviews are also being uploaded to the FIAAA Educational Athletic Director YouTube channel. And come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.